So I've been asked to talk to you about data gathering. I am the Head of Patient Experience and Engagement, as we've said, which is in Swindon, in the Great Western Hospital in Swindon, which is in Wiltshire, for those who don't know. We are a combined acute community and primary care trust, which is quite unusual. That does add some complexities, but also some opportunities when it comes to identifying military personnel and gathering data. We're quite centrally based, and we serve a wide catchment area, including Swindon, Wiltshire, parts of North Somerset, Gloucestershire, Oxfordshire and West Berkshire. So a big area. And that does mean, obviously, we cover quite a lot of military bases as well, and potentially then care for a large number of military personnel and their families, and also have a lot of staff with military connections. We really started our armed forces journey back in April 21, when I was asked to take the lead, so a bit more than a year, but clearly, because of my background and my role, I was sort of more interested, I suppose, in the patient side of things. But I managed to persuade some colleagues to join me in a working group, and those have included people with an ex-military background, current reservist, HR, recruitment and training colleagues. And also our chief nurse is our exec lead. How we were meeting the standards, and we achieved veteran-aware status in September 21, and that's our chief nurse being presented by the Lord Lieutenant of Wiltshire. And we also progressed to bronze, from bronze to silver ERS status. So I was asked to talk about some challenges. So firstly, the first challenge was that I was asked to lead this. I have absolutely no knowledge, or had no knowledge or experience of the military, apart from my brother was in the Navy many years ago. So apart from that, it was a real steep learning curve. I also only work 3 days a week, and I have a large patient experience and engagement remit. So lots to learn for me, and I am continuing to learn. As I mentioned, we're a diverse trust, and unfortunately, I think other people have mentioned, not all of our IT systems talk to each other. But we have two main systems, one in the acute hospital and one out in our community primary care services. So in order to gather the data, it was necessary to have flags, as we'll call them, in both of those systems, and they don't talk to the other systems either, so quite a challenge. We already did have one sort of field in one of our systems, but all that did was ask if the patient was a veteran, nothing more, and it wasn't robustly used. So I managed to change that field, that flag, and ask more questions around whether the person was a veteran, whether they were still serving, and whether they had close family members, and also to implement a new flag into our community and primary care system. To date, we have managed to identify over 8,000 patients with military connections, and that is just in our acute system. Unfortunately, for some reason, they can't tell me how many in our community and primary care at the moment, but hopefully I'll get that data at some point. Now, that clearly shows the high number of patients that are accessing our services, and that's fantastic that we've identified them, but I'm not saying we've done something with all of those 8,000 patients. So clearly, I thought we needed to go further. So what we've done next really is want to make sure that not only are we identifying the patients, that we are actually doing something with that information and referring those patients on. So we've developed a flag now, an assessment within our main electronic nursing administration and assessment system. So that will mean that whenever a patient is admitted to our trust, the nurse that is assessing that patient will go through all of the normal assessments, and that will include a veteran-aware assessment as well. And that will not only identify the patient, but it will also prompt them to refer that patient on. We currently mainly refer on to the Defence and Medical Welfare Service, and that's what that prompt is going to ask them to do. And then obviously once they're referred on, we can look at that additional support and signposting for that patient. Unfortunately, the flag, I'd like to stand here and say the flag is in place. It's not quite, it got delayed again, some IT issues, but we should have that up and running very, very soon. And again, I think that's going to be great, and I think that's really going to make the difference to us, because clearly we are identifying people, but we want to make sure that we're doing something with that. And then from that, my next steps are to really embed that robust referral process. We don't have resource in the trust. There is just me 3 days a week doing all of my other work. So I am currently looking at options to fund some dedicated resource. So I'm really keen to hear from anybody that's got any business cases that I can just steal from them and use. Because it's great. If we identify people, we're going to need somebody to help with those referrals on to external services. And then I think. So just to sort of say what this has meant for our patients, just a couple of case studies there. One patient was flagged on our patient administration system and was then referred on to the Defence Medical Welfare Service by our nursing team. They were then able to support them with their alcohol addiction. That included re-engaging with their family, contacting AA, supporting with personal independence payments application, and seeking treatment for their depression. Now, it was fantastic that not only was that patient identified, but the nurse recognised that and thought there is some support there, and they picked up on that and referred appropriately. Another patient was also identified and referred to Defence Medical Welfare Service by the nursing team, and that was around mobility and debt issues. The Defence Medical Welfare Service officer visited the hospital and supported with applying for attendance allowance and referral for a mobility scooter, which significantly obviously helped with that patient's independence. And I think in both cases, we can see that the support that was offered ensured that the discharge was speeded up and that it was safe for that patient to go home. And I'm sure it also helped with preventing readmission for those patients. So fantastic.